Bernie, you are one of those people that are just making things happen in this space. You saw an opportunity within Solana to create storage, and there you go. You're making it happen, creating the opportunity for people to run nodes and provide storage. But something that you're also doing is redefining what Wikipedia really should look like. There's been a lot of controversy on that lately, and I just want to get your take on it. What do you think about it?
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Action. Yeah, Wikipedia has been on my radar for a long time, and I've been observing the controversies that are building up there. And I think many of these controversies can be resolved by completely decentralizing it. And what is the tool the world has for decentralization? Well, it's called blockchain. And we are thinking of that as a demo app for what we're building here at Xandeum with that storage layer, because I want to showcase to the world, what are we building this for? And who needs a storage layer on Solana? Just building apps that weren't possible before, right? And building that Wikipedia alternative out there that is fully decentralized, where a DAO decides on what this thing is going to be. The DAO decides on content moderation policies, right?
That's a big deal.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And the DAO decides on monetization, right? How much will authors get and earn in tokens, right? There will be a token that the whole Wikipedia thing is based on. And how much will authors get, and all these type of things, and that's and then much of the controversy about content moderation, the controversy about fundraising, right? There's a big controversy about Wikipedia's fundraising. Which is, these little ads that pop up.
Ads. I feel like I see them year round.
Yeah, they used to be once a year, but, at least perceived, it seems to be like 3-4 times a year now. And yeah, much of the controversy is around, those ads seem like, hey, donate. We need to keep Wikipedia going. We need to pay for all these expenses, or improve Wikipedia, right? And then when you really look into it, you find out, well, all the money that he's raising, Jimmy Wales, who's controlling that thing, it's not really for running or improving Wikipedia, right? There's lots of donations that Wikipedia themselves is doing, and granted, they are set out somewhere on their website, but they're kind of in the fine print, right? Nobody thinks like, oh, I'm raising money in order to donate it to these 27 organizations, right? And these are not even universal causes that are out there. They are quite controversial causes, right? That you might agree with or might not agree with. And that's why I think, having a decentralized Wikipedia as our demo app, it'll be great, right? It'll solve a real controversy there. It'll showcase to the world what's possible now with the Xandeum storage layer, and it'll all be open source, so other developers will see like, wait, if I can do that with blockchain now and with smart contracts, I've always had that idea, right? And then they see how easy it is. Right?
All right. So do you have a name for the Xandeum, Wikipedia yet?
Yeah, the name that we've come up with now is Info.wiki.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's the domain name we've reserved. There might be a different name at some point in time, but yeah, it's Info.wiki.
Got it. Now, can I add, I'll just be blunt with this one. Like, can we expect it to be unbiased? Because I'll use X as an example. Like, I love what X has done as far as allowing community notes to show up all over the place. If you're saying something that isn't quite the whole truth, you get community noted, right? And you have people coming together and saying, hey, we don't agree with this. Here's the proof. Is that the idea, to be able to put the power back in the hands of the people, for them to be able to have a true and honest Wikipedia type of platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So the DAO controls everything, and I don't aim to have a large share in the DAO or own a lot of these tokens for Info.wiki. And Xandeum doesn't aim to own a lot of tokens. It's more like our gift to the world to showcase what we're doing. It's not completely altruistic because we put our powered by Xandeum there and we want to showcase what's possible. But the actual Wikipedia alternative will be fully decentralized. And then the DAO could vote a council, and the council could say, come up with moderation policies. As long as we don't have community notes there in the early days, it could just be the council or the DAO itself to do the content moderation, or at least the content moderation policies. And then I can see the DAO, once they have some funds coming in because people are buying that token, they can use those funds to have a community notes thing developed.
Yeah.
Without Xandeum involvement, right? It's like it's really released to the world as our gift to the world, and there will naturally be people coming up that want to be part of the DAO and the council and own a lot of tokens and build the community notes and all these type of things. And then in the end, the control will be owning a lot of these tokens, right? So there's always the risk that some people, whether it be the richest in the world or the number 3 or whoever, just buy a lot of these tokens and control the thing. That can always happen. But maybe the DAO even decides that voting rights are limited, right? And nobody has more than 1% of voting rights, even if they buy 80% of the tokens, right?
I mean, that's a really good way to establish a non-biased means of voting.
Yeah. But we can only do one thing. We're building that storage layer, right? Yeah. And we really want that Wikipedia thing to live by its own. If we see it prosper and take over the world and really be as widely adopted as Wikipedia or even surpassing it, that would of course be awesome.
Yeah.
But that's not in our hands, right? We just build it and use it as a demo. But yeah, maybe it'll be super adopted, and all it takes is one retweet by Elon Musk, I would say, and nobody knows if that happens or not. But it might.
What it also does is it allows you to test your nodes, how they operate, because you obviously, you have this incredible storage layer that's being built on Solana, but you need to put something on it. You actually got to try it, right? This is a great way of doing so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, where do we go from here? This is one example of one problem that can be solved by decentralization. Do you think this is going to be the catalyst that's going to allow people to see, wait, I can do this with that application or that website? Do you think that this is just going to be the start of something greater?
Well, that's the plan, of course, right? And I don't know whether the Info.wiki, the Decentralized Wikipedia alternative, will be the one taking off, or will it be something that I can't think of right now, that Xandeum can't think of? But we have a vibrant community.
Yeah.
We have people in the community that can't wait for us launching it on mainnet, and they will be launching their own apps, right? And that's what's needed, right? We need to have an ecosystem that, if we try to do everything, it won't work, right? We can just build the infrastructure layer. We can suddenly enable people to build all sorts of apps. We can spark that Cambrian explosion, as I like to put it, right? And then which one of these apps will turn out to be a killer app? We will see, right? Yeah. Nobody can predict that. And of course, it would be cool if our Wikipedia alternative is that killer app. But it could be something completely different, and it could be something that someone else will be coming up with, right?
Now, back in 2015, Vitalik had this crazy idea. I was like, we're going to build the infrastructure so people can build on top of it. And they were all like, who's going to build on this? Who's actually going to do it? Yeah. It's like, I don't know, but there could be this type of application or that type of application.
Yeah.
Here you are, literally 10 years later, creating something that you're basically saying the same thing. I'm not sure what's going to be on there, but we want to make it available for people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now you think this is people are gonna look at you like you're crazy, like they did to Vitalik.
Yeah, it's the crazy ones where that Steve Jobs talked about, right? So, yeah, I'm building it with that purpose, right? And it's always, what the world does, and I don't really care about that. Is like you get a lot of feedback where people just turn the page and say, "Oh yeah, that's one of those guys that thinks he's going to change the world," and stuff like that, right? I believe it is, and I'm fully aware it might turn out to be that way, or it might not. But I just don't want to lie on my deathbed some decades, hopefully a lot of decades in the future, and lie on my deathbed and think like, well, I haven't even tried, right?
Yeah.
And I can't make it a success, right? All I can do is do my best and give my best. And I'm doing that right now by sitting with you here and doing these videos. And it's the universe's job or God's job or however you want to phrase it, whether it actually turns out to be a success or not, right? But all we can do as mundane citizens here is do our best, and that's what we're doing, and have some intent. Have the intent to create something that sparks that Cambrian explosion of Web3 apps, and that's what's driving me each and every day.
Yeah, nobody's ever changed the world by sitting around and doing nothing. So
absolutely,
so excited to see somebody actually doing something, looking for those, places where there could be improvements, where there is a lack of, in this case, infrastructure for people to build the things that they have been building for years, and finally leverage, blockchain technology for, I would say, the good of the people. Really is the way I look at it, is because a lot of things that I would love to see decentralized, just hasn't been able to be done that way, simply because the tools haven't been there, the infrastructure hasn't been there, and here you come along and say, you know what, let's change things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So really, really excited about what Xandeum is doing, the possibilities that it's opening up, and I can't wait to see not only this Wikipedia, takeover, but many more things go the decentralized route. Any one or two specific things that you can think of that you would like to see people build on Xandeum?
Yeah, the things that are easiest for me to think of right now is like porting things over from Web 2, where we have centralized organizations that could censor people, which is sometimes, it's not always a big issue, but sometimes like with DNS or web hosting or so, it's an issue that you can be censored, right? And even with Airbnb, I've read stories where people just got banned for no apparent reason or stuff like that. And Airbnb probably is a nice thing, right? And I remember the vibes that kind of one of the predecessors of Airbnb named Couchsurfing, the vibes that it had back in the day, that was really like decentralized. It got taken over by a VC then, and then most people were like, what is that? And it was supposed to be community owned and stuff like that. It could have been crypto powered back in the day. Maybe then there wouldn't have been that opening for Airbnb. And they could have just evolved. But I feel like, the sharing economy, doing it as a real sharing and not having a centralized platform that can do anything, right? Once they have a monopoly, they can charge like any fees. Airbnb fees are crazy these days.
No, they really are.
They really are. And all that share economy, that was really popular, started to become super popular, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago or something. That can all be really peer-to-peer sharing, right? Without having a platform that's controlled by anyone. There's still a platform. It has to be built somehow as an app on Xandeum.
Right.
But then it can be released to be completely DAO governed and completely owned and governed by the users. That's where I want to see a lot of these share economy. And there's lots of apps out there on Web 2, right? And Airbnb and Uber are the ones that are often named as the core examples of that share economy, but there are literally thousands of other successful apps that build around that share economy model of thinking. And I'd love to see a lot of these on Xandeum.
Now, I gotta say, like the couch surfing, example is perfect because that's how I feel about local Bitcoins. Localbitcoins.com.
Yeah.
Like I'm old enough to actually have used it myself.
Yeah.
So if we had the opportunity of making some of those things, trustless, decentralized, I think we'd be in a much better world today than we are right now. So thank you for building what you're building. Thank you for, sticking your neck out there because like I said, nobody's ever changed the world by sitting around and doing nothing. So
let me add one thing,
please.
Right? If talking about a DeFi, even like it's not going to replace banking today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't like upload your credit report, right? On blockchain.
Very
right?
true.
Just because blockchain couldn't store it also, right?
Yeah.
And
I mean, you can. It just costs you about $1 billion.
Right. So for DeFi to be more like banks, but not controlled by the bankers, but controlled by the community, by a DAO, that's something where Xandeum can contribute a lot, though. It's a little bit trickier to figure out how it can contribute there than with the share economy. I think it's quite obvious.
Yeah.
But in DeFi, being able to upload personal information, to build on it, to in order to give loans that are not collateralized or over collateralized, right? So all the lending these days is like you need to have the money, right? You can just swap it from one token to the other without having to sell it or something like that. That's not even real lending, I would say, right? So I think there's a lot of innovation out there on DeFi as well, if we have that Xandeum storage layer.
Yeah, I see a lot of things in DeFi right now really stagnant, simply because they don't have the ability of doing anything else.
Yeah,
it has to be very small, protocols that can be deployed quickly. That's it. Yeah, other than that, there's not much else they can do. So this opens up a brand new realm of possibilities.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So fantastic. Bernie, really appreciate the insight. Can't wait to see what this Wikipedia type website looks like. Hopefully it does take over the world because, man, the dream here is to see things decentralized and having people actually own their data. So thank you so much for sticking your neck out there. Like I said, let's go change the world.
Thanks, Action.